So I have to be there at least 12:30. So I have to make most out of our time today since we don't have any lectures or class last week, no, because of the schedules that you have. So I'm trying to squeeze in two lectures in for today. So hopefully we'll be done by at least uh at least by 11:30 to 12 o'clock. Okay. So let me start now, no? Because it's a long, very, very long lecture. Okay. So let me share my screen. So everyone can see my slides. Can you guys see my slides? Can you confirm?
Yes, Doc.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. Let me turn off my videos muna. Okay. So I would have good internet. Okay. So can you see my slides, everyone?
Yes, Doc.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. So for today, we'll be talking about two topics. So basically, the management of the extraction socket and of course bone grafting techniques. Okay. So by the way, hopefully you enjoyed your exams last time, no? And I already have the results. Well, it was pleasing and satisfying. However, you know your scores, no? You know your scores already. So I want to challenge most of you to do more better. Okay, so please study more. No, because everything is already provided to you. So all you had to do is listen and take down some notes. Even my lectures are being given to you. So all you have to do is study. So I cannot say naman na you did not learn something kasi at least 80% to 90% of you passed. No, however, there's a certain number of people who was actually did not do well. So I challenge you guys to do better. Okay, to do better. Okay, so the topic is extraction socket and of course bone grafting techniques. Okay, so before I start my lecture, no, so since this lecture would pertain to some materials, especially on bone grafting, I would like to imply here that I'm not attached, no, I'm not attached to any company who distributes these products. Okay, so they don't have any influence, no, or control on my presentation. So introduction. So alveolar bone undergoes a volumetric change after tooth extraction due to physiologic bone remodeling. So you all know that once you extract a tooth, the socket would actually change into different dimensions. Okay. Now the amount of alveolar bone available during prosthodontic treatment can actually affect the aesthetic outcome of the treatment and make the implant placement challenging. So basically, sabi nga natin that implants are prosthetically driven. No? When you say prosthetically driven, it's actually prosto that controls the deciding factor or where, and of course, how to put, no, how to put the dental implants. However, the recipient side, no, the recipient side of the dental implant should actually have a very good bone bed na tinatawag. Maganda yung bone structure yun talaga doon for you to be able to receive a very good implant because you need bone to also integrate the implant. Now, an implant cannot survive without bone. So having a very good alveolar ridge would actually be a thing to consider, no, if you're going to do dental implants. Okay. Now, the development of predictable and innovative treatment for optical aesthetic outcome requires a thorough process, a thorough understanding of the underlying biological processes of the bone and soft tissue healing following tooth extraction. So basically, uh, what we want to do, since we may have discrepancies, no, or shortcomings of bone on the implant area. So what we do, we try to develop techniques, we try to develop materials that would improve the host, no, the host of the dental implant. So for the dental implant to be stable and of course to also provide a very good outcome, no, aesthetic outcome for the patients. Okay. Now, attaining pleasing aesthetics in the anterior maxilla involves many clinical parameters, but is principally related to the peri-implant mucosal structure, mucosal architecture, in comparison with the contralateral natural tooth. So basically, I keep on telling you for several months already that the hardest thing to replace is the anterior implants. Yung nag-iisa, like for example, I'm missing 1-1, I'm missing 2-1, on which there is actually an adjacent tooth nakatabi. Because what you need to do is to, to simulate, simulate the aesthetics and of course the functional outcome of that adjacent natural tooth. So if you're going to simulate it, no, dapat almost magkapareho sila to achieve that aesthetic outcome. You have to have good enough peri-implant mucosal architecture. So ibig sabihin, kailangan yung mucosa mo doon maganda rin. Hindi siya manipis, hindi siya makapal, yung tamang-tama lang. And of course, you know that mucosa follows the amount of bone present on the area. So kung ibig sabihin, kung makapal ang bone, maganda din yung mucosa. Kung mababa ang bone, mababa ang mucosa. So basically, it would affect the aesthetic outcome, no, of your implant prosto. Okay? So that's why socket preservation techniques are advocated post-extraction to maintain the bone's vertical and horizontal alveolar dimension and prevents its atrophy. So basically, what we want to do right now is we don't want to manage an existing problem. So that's why what we want to do is to prevent that problem from happening. So that's why socket preservation techniques has been developed, no, for us to be able to preserve the socket. So Ibrahim, pag binunot mo yung ipin, normally magko-collapse yung socket. So what we need to do is to preserve that height and of course the width of that socket. Okay. Now the objectives of the lecture are the following. The aim of this presentation is to summarize the degree of tissue alterations in tooth extraction sites and to identify the associated modulating factors in order to assist the dental professional in selection of the most appropriate treatment protocols. Now, this presentation also aims to describe the techniques currently recommended for ridge preservation and provide clinicians with an evidence-based approach for alveolar ridge preservation. Now, we all know that bone is made up of three, no? Basically three structures, no? Three structures or what we call three components. We have the inorganic, which is your mineral matrix calcium of salts. No? That's what you see, no? Yung bulk ng bone na yan, that's what you see. That's the mineral matrix of calcium salts or what we call the HA, no? Okay? Hydroxyapatite. No? That's what you call the hydroxyapatite. While the organic matrix, no, the one that you see, no, nakikita niyo yung mga butas-butas na yan in the bone, di ba? Yung bone trabeculae. That is where the organic matrix is. It is made up of collagen and what we call the BMPs, no, the bone morphogenic proteins. Now, the bone morphogenic proteins and collagen are the only two, the only two organic matrix present on the bone. Now, say on the cellular level, no, on the cellular level, present on the bone morphogenic proteins are the cells of the bone. Yun tinatawag natin mga osteocytes, no? And there are three different kinds of osteocytes present in the bone, which is the osteoblast, no, the bone forming cells, the osteoclast, which is the bone destructive cells, and the osteoprogenitor cells, which triggers the function of the osteoblast and of course the osteoclast. Okay. Now, there are two different kinds of bone. You have your cortical, or what you call the compact bone, which is yung matigas, no? The one that you see, no? Halimbawa, nakakita kayo ng bone pag kumain kayo ng bulalo and everything. The surface, no? The shiny surface of the bone that you see is what we call the cortical compact bone. Well, the one that you see, no? The one that you see inside, no? Inside the bulalo, no? Is actually the spongious, or the what we call the cancellous bone. Now, basically, all structures of the bone may be cortical, compact, or spongious and cancellous has the same components. They have an inorganic matrix, they have an organic matrix, they have the cells. However, the only thing that would differ to each one of them is the number, no, the number of the cell, or the number of the organic matrix on the cortical bone, which is lesser, no, the number of the inorganic matrix in the compact bone is more higher, and the cells would basically lesser. So that's why it's called compact, mas matigas siya kasi mas maraming inorganic components, mas less ang organic components. Hindi siya compared sa cancellous bone na mas less ang cortical bone, mas less ang kanilang inorganic matrix, mas maraming organic matrix, and of course, mas maraming cells. So that's why red blood cells, no, all kinds of cells are being produced on that trabeculum of the bone. Kasi doon siya sa may cancellous part. Kasi nandun yung mga blood supply, everything. Nandun yung organic matrix natin. So that's the big difference of the components, no, of the cortical bone and of course the spongious bone. Now, sorry. Now, as I've said, there are different kinds of bone cells. Now, you have your osteoblast, osteoclast, and the osteoprogenitor. So basically, osteoblasts are the bone-forming cells. No? They form the bone, while the osteoclast destroys the old bone. So basically, it's a 24-hour thing. No? Even though you're sitting down right now, your osteoblast would form new a cycle on which it happens all the time. No, that's the process of what we call the bone turnover. Okay. Now, what are the stages of socket healing? So when you say stages of socket healing, you have to look at the picture of which you extracted the tooth. Now, when you extract a tooth, it's a complex wound. No, it's a complex wound. The wound present there is not only a mucosal wound, but also a bone wound. There's a presence of a bone exposure. So that's why it's a complex healing. So that's why all the thing you have to be familiar, no, with the stages of socket healing. So the stages of the socket healing are composed of five, no, and it happens to the length of 16 weeks. So basically, you're talking about 4 months, no, 4 months of complete wound healing of the extraction socket. So the first week, granulation tissue would replace the coagulum. Coagulum is your blood clot. So after you magbunot ng ipin. You have to control the blood clot, no? Yung blood clot, so makikita mo doon may hardened blood na on the surface of the socket. So that is what you call the coagulum. Narcoagulum, present there is the RBCs, the WBCs, the macrophages, and everything. No? So nandun siya. Now, if it passes through the normal wound healing, ibig sabihin walang interference, walang infection, immediately on the first 7 days, granulation tissue would happen. So what does granulation tissue looks like? So it's a composition of a red and white structure. So hindi yun food debris na nakikita nyo on that area. Ay, sorry.
Hindi
Ba't
nag-present
nawala?
yung ano, Doc, yung slides
Ayan
mo.
nga. Yun nga, nawala nga. Yan. Hindi, hindi nyo dapat tanggalin yung red and white na tissue na yon. Okay? Kasi it's actually where the presence of a healing pattern that would happen. So nandun siya, nandun siya. So it's composed of granulation tissue. Then after on the second week, so basically around 8 days, or between the 7th to 14th day, basically that granulation tissue would transform into a connective tissue, no? So mas nag-harden siya. So when you say connective tissue, it's actually like a muscle already. So coming from the soft granulation tissue, coming from the coagulum, the blood clot, it would transform into a granulation tissue. Then after that, that granulation tissue would harden, then connective tissue would happen. Okay? That's the second week. Now, 4 to 6 weeks after, there would be complete epithelial closure. So, ibig sabihin, yung connective tissue niya na yon, it would promote a creeping development on top. It would change with all things dimensionally. So these dimensional alterations have been reported to cause a ridge width reduction up to 50% during the first year of tooth loss, where about two-thirds of the total changes takes place within the first 3 months of post-extraction. So basically, and ideally, you should not make the socket or you should not disturb the socket within the first 3 months. Hindi mo siya pwedeng galawin kasi doon yung active na bone osteogenesis eh. So if you disturb the osteogenesis on that part, no, except for doing nothing, you would cause alterations in the dimensions of your socket. Now, they say that a systematic review showed that a loss of 2.6 to 4.5 millimeter in the width, yung lapad ng bone, you would have a bone with bone loss of 2.6 to 4.5 millimeter and a zero point 0.4 to 3.9 in the vertical height. No, so ibig sabihin, liliit siya, ninipis yung bone by 2.6 to 4.5 millimeter, and the height of the bone would reduce around 0.4 to 39, no, 3.9 millimeter in the height. No? So that's why they say, no, they say that you don't have that even though you don't do anything, wala kang ilagay dyan, wala kang i-weight or function or pressure ilagay dyan, it would change dramatically. More so if you put something on top. No? If you put a load on top, of course, logically, no, common sense na lang yun. Syempre, magkakause pa ng additional alterations. Okay? Now, the alveolar process. Now, why does this happen? Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Ay, sorry. Yeah. So why did this happen? Because the alveolar process is composed of the bundle bone, no? Consisting of a lamellar bone that has a thickness of 0.2 to 0.4 millimeter, no? And is tooth-dependent structure. So how would you know it's a lamellar bone? So when you take a periapical X-ray, no, I'm sure that you have seen a periapical X-ray, you would see the lamina dura. Are you familiar with the lamina dura? That's that white line, no, surrounding the tooth. No? That white line surrounding the tooth is actually a cortical bone. It's a cortical bone. It's a cortical type of bone. Matigas yan. No? It's not expanding. So that is what you call the lamellar bone. No? That's your lamina dura. Now, this lamina dura is tooth dependent. Why is it tooth dependent? It is where the connections of your tooth is attached, specifically your periodontal ligaments. No? Specifically your periodontal ligaments. So that's why when you have a periodontal problem, pag nagka-perio kayo, tapos may pocket depth kayo, may pocket probing depth kayo, mapapansin nyo, yung lamina, yung bone na yan, yung lamina dura nyo, either lumalaki yung periodontal space or bumababa yung periodontal space. So basically, it's tooth dependent. So it's dependent upon the disease that is present on the tooth, especially the ones that affecting the periodontium. So perio pa lang yung isa. Another perfect example is your diagnosis of a chronic apical periodontitis. No? When you see a chronic apical periodontitis, there will be a disruption of the lamina dura towards the apical portion of your tooth. So basically, that's another thing. No? So basically, this lamellar bone, no, is actually tooth dependent. No? Is tooth dependent. So pag nawala yung ipin, halimbawa binulot mo na yung ipin, wala nang lamellar bone kasi it would not serve its purpose of supporting any structure. So that's how important tooth preservation is. No, that's how important tooth preservation is. Now, if you extract the tooth, no, the lamellar bone would collapse. No, basically you would have a receded bone. Okay. Now, this is the pattern. No? This is the pattern of your alveolar bone resorption, on which the lingual bone remains dimensionally stable after 2 weeks. No? So the labial buccal bone continues to decrease by 0.4 to 3.9 millimeter in the vertical height. No? Mapapansin nyo, coming from here, naging ganito, nagkakaroon ng sloping downwards until you have high degree of your resorption of your bone plus your tissue. So basically in the maxilla, no, this is the thing that happens. So that's why sinasabi nga nila, mas matigas ang bone on the palatal or lingual side of the maxilla compared on the labial bone. So basically, this is what alteration would happen, no, if you don't do something about it. Now, remember, your bone provides the hard structure of your alveolar process. No? So whatever happens to your alveolar bone, your soft tissue would also be adapted on the structures below. So that's why in soft tissue texture, color, and appearance plays a pivotal role in achieving pleasant aesthetics. No? Now, the influence of soft tissue healing on post-extraction socket. So basically, the patients cannot see the bone. They couldn't see the bone. All they can see is the aesthetics of your gingiva, of your mucosa. Okay? Now, thicker soft tissues not only have a higher volume of extracellular matrix and collagen, but also increase vascularity, which enhances the clearance of toxic products and favors the immune response. So basically, the thicker the tissue, the better. Therefore, thicker soft tissues have shown to respond more favorably to wound healing, plaque management, and restorative trauma. Now, prior to extraction, the soft tissue thickness in the anterior maxilla in most patients range from zero point 0.5 to 1 millimeter. So basically, that is the ideal thickness no, of your tissues in the mucosa. Okay? Okay. Now, what are the factors affecting bone alveolar resorption? First is, of course, anatomy. Second is normal physiology. Third is bone remodeling. Fifth is systemic disease, medical treatments that's given to the patient, the surgical technique used, and of course, old school philosophies. Okay. Now, the labial bone is what we call the extent of the bone loss following extraction seems to depend on factors such as facial bone wall thickness, angulation of the tooth, and the differences on the anatomy of various tooth size. No? The facial bone wall thickness in the anterior maxilla has been shown to be less than 1 millimeter in 90% of the cases and less than zero point 0.5 millimeters in 50% of the cases. Now, this is what your bone looks like no? Immediately post-extraction. So immediately post-extraction, you will see here that there's actually a very thin bone. Then afterwards, after 8 weeks, no, you would see that I don't know. You would see that this is the thick bone, this is the 1 millimeter bone, this is the zero point 0.5 bone. Immediately after 8 weeks, you would see that there would be no more labial bone anymore. Now here, on the thick bone, you would see that there is a still much thicker bone compared to your thin bone. No? And on the thermogram, you will see the red area, which just means that there's no presence of the bone. However, on the thick type of bone, you would have a bigger chances of bone left no, on that area. Okay, that's talking of a normal tooth extraction socket. Okay, in the labial bone, no, they say in one journal, in a clinical cone beam computed tomography no, or CBCT of 39 patients, no, a progressive bone resorption pattern observed in the sites with facial bone wall thickness of 1 millimeter or less, leading to the median vertical bone loss of 7.5 millimeter or 62% of the formal facial bone height after 8 weeks of the healing. Okay? Now, in contrast, patients with thick wall phenotype showing a facial bone wall thickness of more than 1 millimeter displayed a median vertical loss of 1.1 millimeter by 9%. So if you're going to compare, no, if you're going to compare the amount of bone loss for the thin wall bone, which is very great, no, which is great, no, by what we say here, no, it says that 62% no would actually be lost compared to the thick wall of bone, which is only a 9%. So basically, this is what you need to look for, no? This is what you need to look for in your cases, no, before you do dental implants. Now, so but sometimes no, we cannot actually blame it all throughout, no, because of the patient. Sometimes physiology plays a big process in terms of bone loss. So one of the physiologic process that is known to be have great effects no, on the atrophy or the physiologic loss of bone is what you call the atrophy. Now, atrophy can be attributed to the following factors: early removal of the teeth, trauma, periodontal disease, pathological lesions, ill-fitting dentures, and of course, osteoporosis. Now, as I've said previously for so many times that bone remodeling, bone remodeling happens now, and as I've said, no, that functional loading would always happen. No? So whatever you put on the bone, it would have create detrimental changes. No, may it be healthy or non-healthy, it would create detrimental changes to the leftover bone. Now, sometimes no physiology would not be the one that will only affecting the loss of bone, but also certain diseases such as hyperthyroidism, diabetes, and what we call your asthma. Now, not only because of the diseases, but also because of the medications that the patients are taking, like your corticosteroids, like your thyroxine hormones, thyroxine replacement hormones, and of course your metformins, for diabetes. So basically, the disease itself plus the drugs that they are taking to control this disease, create a nitrogen imbalance in the body, thus preventing protein formation. And lack of protein formation would actually affect, the structure of the bone, magwi-weaken yung bone, because you know that muscles, connective tissue derive its function, derive its structure from protein. So kung less protein, mas malambot ang buto, mas malambot ang tissue. So basically, this would greatly affect, it would create a nitrogen imbalance in the body, thus bone formation would lessen, and of course the density of the bone would also lessen. So that's why this is a big problem actually for for clinicians, if they want to consider systemic diseases. Now, some diseases can also trigger problems, such as treatment of head and neck cancers. Now, this is one effect of your radiation treatment for a head and neck cancer. So you would see that there's a degree of osteonecrosis of the bone, on the area of tooth number 346, or 6, and also it would continuously progress until the extraoral region, exposing your alveolar process and of course your mandibular bone towards the extraoral surface. So that's why it would greatly affect your tissues also. Now, there's also what you call osteonecrosis of the jaw brought about by medications. So this is a perfect example of a degree of resorption and sclerosis of the bone who the patient is taking up zoledronic acid, which is a biphosphonate, which is meant to control the spread of cancer, and of course meant to also to prevent osteoporosis. So basically, you would see here on the area of tooth number 33, you will see there's a big amount of osteosclerotic bone on that one from October until progressing into a pathological fracture on the month of December. So clinically, you would see that there's a presence of bone with exudates there. And of course, after 3 months, you would see that there's a higher degree of bone exposure, and of course, an exposure of the pathological fracture on that area. So basically, that's medicine-related osteonecrosis of the jaw. Now, another cause of bone loss, active bone loss, is actually extraction techniques, yung pagbunot natin. So because of the skill present in the clinician, so it could be caused by poor or faulty extraction techniques. So people would still use forceps. Kayo, gumagamit pa kayo ng forceps, tapos gumagamit pa kayo ng malalaking elevator. So this would create a fracture on the labial or the buccal part of the bone. Maka-fracture yan. So pag na-fracture yan, again, mas malaking bone loss ang mawawala. So that's why your goal is actually to prevent this faulty extraction techniques. We want to lessen the expansion of the socket for us to be able to preserve those labial bone. Okay. Now, and also another technique that was being taught to us, if you're going to perform multiple extraction, especially on the anterior region, what you need to do, you have to perform intraseptal alveoloplasty. Now, the reason why they advise that, for us to be able to prevent bulbous bone on the residual ridge, that would prevent the placement of a very good dentures. However, by performing intraseptal alveoloplasty, you would have actually created the lesser the dimension of the bone, because kinat mo interdental bone. So pag kinat mo interdental bone, magkakaroon ng bony collapse of the labial going to the palatal or lingual. So basically, again, you have triggered a hastening of the acceleration of your bone towards resorption. Okay? Kasi kinat mo yung interdental or intraseptal areas. Now, so what are the common solutions that we do? Ano ba yung ginagawa natin if we have something like that? So normally, what we do, we replace it with one tooth. So yes, I would agree. No, you would see that on this case of ours, we have replaced this area, no, which is severely resorbed, no, area with a single unit Pontic. So basically, this will simply shows, no, that this area is actually a big problem in terms of aesthetics. Now, functionally, is it effective? Yes, it's effective because the patient can bite on it. The question right now again is it aesthetically pleasing? Now, that is where the dilemma is. No? So, what you have to do is to choose function over aesthetics or aesthetics over function. So, basically, you don't want to do this in your practice. No? You don't want something like this because it would cause, it would simply show your incompetence as a dentist. No? So, that's why you have to do something about it. Or if you can't do something about it, might as well prevent it because the effects of your prevention right now can actually be seen in the future of your patients. Now, other times, especially for multiple extracted teeth, no, for severely uh, atrophied ridges, what we do is we put in crowns or bridges, no, na napakalaki for us to be able to compensate the loss of height. So for us to be able to accommodate a very good vertical dimension. So basically, this is one of the effects. Now, the question right now, upon your evaluation, is it functional? Yes, it's functional. Is it aesthetically pleasing? No, hindi. Kasi ang hahaba ng ipin. Sabay nakita ng ipin na ganyan kahaba. So basically, it's not aesthetically pleasing. Now, the reason why it looks like that because a dentist tried to put in, a mini dental implants on the area. So this is what you call mini dental implants. No? So you've seen here that the patient, mas magaling pa kayo dyan, no? All the implants of the maxillary went inside the maxillary sinus, eh? Sa loob ng maxillary sinus. And on the lower, you would actually see that the dentist, no, is not is not a very good clinician. Why? Two implants went into the two implants went into the mandibular canal. One implant here went to the mental foramen. Uh, Here, and the three implants cause a pathological fracture in the area. So basically, did you restore the teeth? Yes. But the thing is, what is the sustainability and the effect of your treatment? Well, this is what happens. No? Pag hindi ka talaga nag-aral, all you want to do is just like put a screw there, then might as well be not a dentist. No? Might as well be a carpenter na lang. No? So that is an effect, no, of a misguided clinician. No? So this clinician was actually sued by in PRC. So the total cost of the legal predicament is around 11 million, and plus, no, plus the revocation of the license. So the license of the dentist was actually removed or revocated. Okay. So what we do to prevent all those issues, no, we need to do ridge preservation. So basically, ridge preservation would have different techniques such as a traumatic tooth extraction, immediate implant placement, socket preservation, which is both bone grafting, collagen plugs, and of course your PRN. So let's go to the first one, a traumatic tooth extraction. So basically, this is what you can do, no? This is what you can do at your skill level right now, a traumatic tooth extraction. But however, the techniques of traumatic tooth extractions are not being taught in most of the schools. Why? Because your teachers itself, no, does not know how to perform these traumatic extraction techniques. So by looking at the picture, no, by looking at the picture here, you would see how a traumatic extraction happens. So basically, I'm sure that you have not performed such kind of technique. No? So what is the concept of technique? So as I've said, the laminar bone, or what you call the lamina dura on the radiograph, is the one that provides the attachment of the tooth through the periodontal ligament. So there is what you call a space there. No? So the space there, the concept of a traumatic tooth extraction is to insert an instrument long enough to go until to the middle third of the root of the tooth, then cut off the periodontal ligament. Cut off the periodontal ligament. So by cutting off the periodontal ligament until the mid level of the root of the tooth, that would leave you the apical attachments only of your tooth. Apical attachments na lang. So mas madali siya tanggalin. So here, no, it means that you should not, no, you should not perform too much elevator usage and too much forceps usage. No, what you can do, you can actually extract the tooth using, no, a very simple instrument. So remember, no, remember, you have two principles of tooth extraction, no, which is the wedge and of course your lever. Yung wedge nyo is what you call your, inserting towards the socket, no. That's your wedge, no, that was I showed you a while ago. While your lever is the one that we use to remove the tooth or luxate the tooth, no. So that is what you use your elevator na tinatawag. Yung elevator na yan yung ginagamit para umangat lumabas yung ipin. So basically that's it, no? So you use the interdental bone as your fulcrum, no, for your extraction socket. So but when you use a wedge, no, you don't use any fulcrum on that area. What you need to do is just to pull out your tooth. Okay? So the goal of a traumatic extraction is to preserve the buccal or labial plates and of course the lingual or palatal plates. So the technique is to avoid elevation in the buccal direction. Now, because there's a possibility of fracture of the alveolar bone. So basically, yun yung sinasabi ko, the thickness of your labial bone is 0.5 to 1 millimeter. So if you do, if you extracted a tooth on a buccolingual direction, like sinasabi na, okay, remove your tooth, move your forceps buccally, then lingually, more buccal, lingual, more buccal until may extract yung tooth. Well, may extract talaga yung tooth kasi malambot yung bone on the anterior region. However, ang goal nga natin is to prevent that fracture of your labial alveolar bone. So that's why we opted for a traumatic extraction. So this is one perfect example of an traumatic extraction of the mandibular posterior teeth on which we sectioned the root by roots, no. So we separated the root, the mesial root from the distal root, and we tried to remove each root traumatically. So you would see here that we have good dimension of your bone on that area. Now there are other techniques there are numerous techniques in use doing a traumatic extraction. There's what you call the periotome, there's what you call the pisotome, and there's what you call your surgical burr. So periotome is something like this, no? It's actually an instrument, very long instrument that can insert on the periodontal space, no? Para siyang probe. It can insert there, and you could create wedging technique. So you can see the wedging technique that has been used, the concept of doing this. Yeah, that's the wedging technique. So what you're going to do is to cut the periodontal ligaments now attached to the tooth. Plus, you promote microluxations by inserting an instrument towards the middle third of the root. So that's what you call a periotome. Then there's also what you call a luxators. No, luxators are a very good instruments. No, they actually act like a periotome, however, a little thicker. So, but still, it can insert. No, it can insert. The tip can be inserted until to the cervical or middle third of the root. So that's why again, no, it would promote microluxations, and of course promote periodontal detachment. Okay, so that's your luxator. So another concept right now that we're trying to teach, the dentist is what you call the pisotome surgeries. Yung pisotome surgeries is just like looking at a ultrasonic scaler, the one that you use for scaling and polishing. However, there's a different kind of instrument, or machine that would be able to use this. So the goal of this one is to insert this tip until to the middle third of the root, like this one, and also this one. What happens right now, if you start the machine, it would promote microluxations also. However, on the ultrasonic level, mas mabilis, mas efficient. Kasi dito, pag nag-manual ka lang na manual ka lang na cutting of the periodontal fibers, masakit siya sa kamay, medyo matigas siya. But on the ultrasonic level, mas madali siya. And sometimes, no, when you have fully performed, no, this pisotome surgery, no, you could just easily pull the tooth out vertically. Wala nang buccal lingual motion. So bubunutin mo na siya vertically, which is a good thing, no? Because you would avoid the expansion of your alveolar socket, and of course prevent also the fracture of your labial bone. Now, this is the post-operative swelling, no, or comparison of your rotary instruments, which is your burrs, compared to your pisotome. You would see here that the amount of swelling, no, of the area would be around 44.36, no, percent, while in pisotome it's almost half, no, almost half of the values of a rotary instrument. So rotary instruments means mga burrs, no, mga burrs. Okay. So if you have extracted the tooth well and if you want to preserve the socket, no, the most logical way is to put in a dental implant immediately. So you could see here, we tried to extract tooth number 1.4 and 1.5. No? So this is the clinical pictures, no, occlusally. This is facially. So we extracted the tooth atraumatically and we inserted a dental implant. So this is how a dental implant looks like over the extraction socket. So, but you can see here that there's a gap of bone, no, a gap on the socket. So they say that's what we call the jumping space. Now remember the word jumping space. No? So that jumping space, no, would actually tend to resorb pa. I mean, ninipis pa yan, babagsak pa kasi yung alveolar bone, no, yung coming from here, babagsak pa yan towards the dental implant. So sabi ko nga, what we need to do is to preserve the bone. Kasi if we do that, no, well, okay, kasi stable ang implants. But the question right now is the perimucosal architecture in that area. So bagsak din siya. So what we need to do is to preserve, no, preserve the thickness of the bone. So what do we do? No? So what do we do on this case that we did? No, we did extract the tooth. You could see that we have good gingival architecture. We inserted the implants. Then we inserted something here. It's called a bone graft. No, we inserted something there. It's a bone graft. Okay. Now, the good thing with this technique, no, is actually, is actually very conservative. Now, it is very conservative, no. However, it's actually very expensive. Why? You extracted the tooth, then put a dental implant. So basically, the patient would spend 50% of the dental implant cost. So kung halimbawa sa akin yan, the patient would spend 60,000 immediately on the spot. So basically, not all patients can actually do that, but some patients are opting to do that, no, because it's actually preserving the quantity of bone there. Now, this is what happens. Okay. Now, however, no, there are also cases, no, that na nagtitipid ng konti. No? So what we do the socket shield. So how do you do the socket shield? So extract the tooth, no, pull out the tooth, no. But before you pull out the tooth, you cut, no, the labial part of the root. Ibu-burr mo siya. So basically, it ends up something like this one. No, it ends up something like this one. Now, magnified, it would look like this one. Then you put in your dental implant. Then from you put in your dental implant, you could see that there's still the part of the tooth there. So the purpose of that tooth is to prevent the resorption of this one. Again, sabi ko nga, the labial bone or the alveolar bone is tooth dependent. So if you leave the tooth behind, if you leave the labial part of the tooth behind, so basically, you would preserve the thickness of bone. So that's your socket shield technique. So this is the electron microscopy of your socket shield technique. So you could see here, there's a part of the tooth there. Then after some time, that would actually resorb, then it would become part of the bone. So basically, it's a very good technique to follow. However, again, it's very meticulous. So skill-wise, kailangan mo ng magaling skill. So this is one example of your socket shield technique, no? So what we do, this is a root fragment. We try to remove the tooth. No, we remove the lingual part. We inserted the implant. So basically, after some time, it would look like this one. Okay. Now, so what if you don't have enough skill? No, you don't have enough skill. Then, tapos yung patient doesn't want to undergo pa your socket shield or dental implant. No? So we have a process called bone grafting. It's actually a surgical procedure that replaces the missing bone with material from the patient's own body and an artificial, synthetic, or natural substitute. So it's possible because bone tissue has the ability to regenerate completely provided the space into which it has to grow. So the purpose of bone grafting, no, is actually increase the buccal bone volume, repairs, no, if you want to add thickness, no, ibig sabihin, the implant placement. Okay? So the most basic, no, the most basic uh, bone grafting technique is what you call the socket preservation. So socket preservation is done immediately after tooth extraction. So how do you perform socket preservation? So basically, extract the tooth, then put a bone graft. Sorry, extract the tooth, no? And sorry, nawala ako ah. Sorry. Yeah. Extract the tooth, then put in a bone graft. So what you do, you extract the tooth, you know, clean the socket, put some bone graft. So this is one example of a socket preservation that we did several years ago. Then we extracted the tooth, then put in a bone graft there. So what are the surgical principles in socket preservation? Number one is good isolation of the surgical site. Ibig sabihin, it should be clean enough. No? The surgical site should be clean enough because you're going to put a graft there. No? So kailangan malinis yung surgical area. And of course, reflection of a full thickness flap. So when you reflect a flap, it should have a very good full thickness flap because you need a very good vascular supply coming from your flap. Then, of course, a traumatic handling of soft tissues because you need a soft tissue to cover your bone graft. No? So you need to preserve the soft tissue. So ibig sabihin yan, kailangan hindi mo siya masisira, hindi mo siya mababasag. No? Hindi mo siya mamamacerate na yung term, hindi mo siya mamamacerate. And of course, you should have a good compression of the bone graft material. So when you put your bone graft there, you need to have good compression. Ibig sabihin, well condensed yung bone graft nyo on towards that area. And good hemostasis, which means that you have to have good vascular supply in the area. And of course, proper suturing techniques. No? So the problem right now is there's so many bone graft materials in the market. No, there's so many bone graft materials in the market. No, and each bone graft would differ upon the price that they are into. Iba-iba yung presyo, no? Hindi dahil sa brand, basta quality ng bone graft. So for you to be able to, to decide what bone graft to use, no, you have to consider these four factors, no, when you want to decide for a bone graft of choice. Number one, the space present, no? The space present. Gaano ba kalaki yung space? Gaano ba kalaki yung ipin na pinagtanggalan mo? Gaano kalaki? So, if malaki yung space, ibig sabihin, you need more amount of bone graft. And pag more amount of bone graft, mas malaki ang expense kasi mas marami eh. Diba? So you have to consider that. Next is the density of the bone. Saan ba located saan ba located yung socket? 'Di ba naalala niyo meron tayong bone graft classification? D1, D2, D3, and D4. No, D1 is anterior mandible. No, D2 is your anterior maxilla and your posterior mandible. No, D3 is your posterior maxilla. Then D4 is your resort bone. So basically, you have to consider the density of the bone.
Next thing that you have to do is inexpensive. Kailangan yung tama lang. Huwag naman yung cheap. Yung tama lang. For you to be able to use it and for your patients to be able to afford it. And question right now is the final prosthesis because not all bone grafts are created equal. Merong bone graft na matagal yung substitution time niya. When you say matagal siyang maging bone, or hindi siya naging fully formed the bone. So basically, parang dental implant lang yan. Merong osseointegration, merong fiber integration. So that's why you have to know what type of prosthesis that you're going to put. Are you going to put a combination of a a gum na sa gums lang siya nagre-rest, like for example your stay plates, or gagamit ka ba ng combination on where there is actually a tooth there that would hold the dentures, like your metal framework, no? You have to consider that one, no? You have to consider the final prosthesis. And there are different kinds of bone grafts, no? You have your autogenous bone graft. When you say autogenous, it came from the same person. So halimbawa, si Mr. Dablo magpapa-bone graft, kukuha tayo ng bone graft from himself. So we could get bone graft from within the oral cavity region, coming from the posterior mandible, coming from the anterior mandible. We could get some bone also coming from Mr. Dablo's skull. We could also get some bone from Mr. Dablo's iliac. We could get bone from Mr. Dablo's tibia, and we could also get some bone also from the rib of Mr. Dablo. So basically, no, that's what you call autogenous, coming from the same person. While allograft, no, allograft for allograft, no, that is considered what we call demineralized bone matrix. So when you say allograft, coming from a different person, same species coming from a different person. So halimbawa si Mr. Dablo kailangan niya ng bone graft. So ang kukunan natin ng bone si Mr. Gritan. So ang gagawin natin, Mr. Gritan, magbibigay ka ng bone before natin ilagay kay Mr. Dablo, we would demineralize it. So when you say demineralize, we need to process it in such a way yung mga impurities coming from the bone of Mr. Gritan, no, cannot be transferred to Mr. Dablo. So that's what you call allograft, no? Same species, no? Same species but different persons. Well, your xenograft coming from a different species, like again, si Mr. Dablo, kailangan ng bone graft, kukuha tayo sa bovine. Bovine is cow. Meron naman tinatawag na porcine, coming from the pig, no? So basically, these are two, no? These are two sources of your xenograft: bovine and of course porcine, no? And there's what you call an alloplastic bone graft. From the word alloplastic, means plastic, synthetic. You have different kinds of alloplastics. You have ceramics, you have bioglass, and of course you have tricalcium phosphate. So these are the different kinds of your bone grafts. Now, your bone grafts, no, sabi ko nga, just like it has a process of what you call osseointegration, but however, is at a different, no, in a different level naman for bone grafting. You have three properties, no, three properties of the bone graft that on which you have to look for it to integrate into the bone and of course to achieve its process, kung ano talaga siya. There's what you call osteogenic. When you say osteogenic, it means that all the vital elements, all the vital structures, no, of the bone that you're going to put on the patient is present. Kung ano yung bone na meron na recipient site is yung mag-accept, yung donor bone, which is yung graft, should have the same vital elements. So dapat meron siyang osteocytes, osteoblasts, no, osteoprogenitor cells, meron siyang collagen, lahat kompleto. And the only bone graft with that kind of quality is what you call the autogenous bone graft, no? Autogenous bone graft. While osteoinductive, no, they say recruits and encourage the migration of the osteoprogenitor cells, thus making an osteoblastic differentiation. So paano ba yan? Halimbawa, may socket ka, nilagyan mo ng bone graft. Yung nilagay mong bone graft has what we call an osteoinductive property. So the bone graft is programmed to encourage and recruit yung cells doon coming from the socket. So sasabihin niya, halik kayo dito, punta kayo dito para gumanda yung bone na nilagay sa akin. Yan na pinaglagyan ko. So ngayon si cells, no, since it would see that it has a very good structure also, so ang gagawin ng cells, pupunta siya doon sa bone graft na yon. Kindly mute please. Kindly mute please. So basically, it would encourage, no, and recruit the cells coming from the area, going towards the bone graft. So basically, it's good because para siyang self-sustaining. Nagiging bone talaga siya kasi it would mimic the bone present on the adjacent area. While osteoconductive, no, is totally different. Osteoconductive, wala siyang encouragement. Wala siyang recruitment. Hindi siya nagsasabi. So, ginawa ni osteoconductive, naglagay siya ng bone graft, nag-provide siya ng bahay, nag-provide siya ng lattice or scaffold, which is a bahay. No, naglagay siya ng bridge doon sa area na yon. So, ang purpose ng bridge, makikita ng mga osteoprogenitor cells sa paligid doon sa normal socket. Uy, may bagong tinayong bridge. May bagong tinayong bahay. Tara, punta tayo doon. So, si osteoprogenitor mismo ang magsasabi, tara, punta tayo doon. So, mangyari, magkakaroon ng bone formation on that lattice, on the structure that you put on the bone graft. Kaya nga lang, ang problem with that, no, there is no replacement. Kung ano yung nilagay mo, yes, magiging part siya ng bone, pero nandun pa rin siya. Hindi siya natutunaw. Wala siyang replacement. Hindi niya mai-replace. So that's why it's called osteoconductive. So this is a simple chart, no, that I did, no, to classify all the bone grafts, no, all the bone grafts on their properties like osteoconductive, osteoinductive, and of course osteogenic. So alloplast means that it's a plastic, no? So it's osteoconductive, but not osteoinductive and not osteogenic. Your xenograft, which is your bovine or porcine, is osteoconductive. However, it's not osteoinductive and not osteogenic also. Well, your mineralized allograft, no? Allograft, which means that it came from the different species, same species but different person, both of them are osteoconductive and most of them are osteoinductive also, but they were never to be osteogenetic. Okay? While your autogenous bone graft is osteoconductive, osteoinductive, and also osteogenic. So if you look at these three, you would see that it has the greatest benefit. So that's why autograft, is considered to be the gold standard of bone grafts. It's considered to be the gold because it has all the three properties of the bone graft that you want to use. So what are the structures of your bone grafts? You have a coarse granules. It's the size of the particle. Yung particle na ganyan is 1 to 2 millimeters. It has a very high porosity. It's used for augmentation of large periosseous defects and is commonly used for sinus lift surgeries. While your fine granules is 0.25 to 1 millimeter, is used for close contact with defects wall and considered for small defects. So like periodontal grafting, yung mga nilalagay in between the periodontal space. Now that is the most ideal because it's very, very small. Now, what are the characteristics of a good bone graft? Number one, natural structure. Kaya nga, before kayo bumili ng bone graft someday, you have to see the structures of the bone graft in comparison with the natural tissue. So this is the structure of the bone graft, and this is the structure of the human bone. So basically, you would look at it closely, more or less pareho siya. That's one. Second is excellent wettability. Wettability means adherence of your bone graft to a liquid like blood, like normal saline. So it has what we call a hydrophilic property, no? Hydrophilic, madali siya mag-form ng coagulum. Kasi kung watak-watak siya, no, it would actually have an effect on on the technique that you're going to use. So you need something that would bind on the normal saline solution and of course bind towards the blood. So that's wettability. Next, slow resorption. Though slow resorption sometimes is an advantage, no? Kasi pag mabilis ang resorption, mas manipis ang bone, mas weak ang bone. Pero pag slow resorption, no, pag slow resorption, mabagal nga siya mawala, but matibay yung buto. So basically, that is something that you have to consider. And of course, the long-term success. You have to see the success rate of your bone graft that you're going to use. Kailangan maganda yung success rate niya. Okay? Now, we also have what we call a membrane. Kung naglagay ka ng bone graft, no, sabi ko nga, the bone graft would be placed inside the socket while there should be something to protect the bone graft. Kasi pag ito yung socket, yan ang socket nyo, nilagyan nyo ng bone graft, nilagyan nyo ng bone graft yan. Okay? Tapos may gingiva ka dyan, may gums ka dyan. Yan. These gums, these gums would go inside the socket. Migration. Ito yung tawag. Epithelial migration. No? So, pag na ganyan. Pag pumasok yan, yung ano na yan, yung gingiva na yan, papasok in between the bone graft. So, parang property of the dental implant na what we call fibrous integration. So, mangyari, kung may mga tissue components na in between the bone graft, this bone graft would not be effective. No? Kasi hindi solid ang bone na mabubuo niya. No? It's a fibrous bone. No? So, hindi siya well taken. So, what we need to do, no? What we need to do is to create a barrier. No? Create a barrier. No? Create a barrier for us to prevent the migration of your epithelial mucosa towards that area. So what do we do? No? What we do, we put in a membrane. Yan. We put a membrane. The membrane would protect, no? The membrane would protect the bone graft, no, particles para hindi pumasok yung gingiva doon. So what would happen? Since there is a migration of your epithelium there, no? Doon lang siya tutubo sa membrane, on top of the membrane. Then this one, this bone here, no, it will promote its osteoconductive and osteoinductive properties coming from the areas, no? The surrounding areas. So basically, this would actually happen. It would become a very, very good dense bone. No? So your membrane acts, no, something as to contain the graft in the area. So it's used for guided tissue regeneration. This is guided tissue regeneration. And this one is what you call the guided bone regeneration. You guided the bone. You prevent the bone from spillage, you know, from going out and everything and combining with the mucosa. And it also protects the bone graft, no, from soft tissue invasion. But however, there is one problem. No? There is a reduced vascularity on the bone graft. Nagre-reduce yung vascularity sa bone graft. No? So, but that is sometimes obsolete right now because we have newer techniques on which we can actually, you know, actually promote vascularity on the area. Okay? So this is what it looks like. This is what they call a membrane. This is made of collagen. So what are the characteristics of a good membrane? Natural structure. It means that it should come from an organic material. Commonly, it's made from the collagen coming from the intestine of the cow, no? Or from a human person. Pwede siyang xenograft, pwede siyang allograft. it has good, excellent wettability. So it means that it's hydrophilic. It should absorb the blood and of course absorb some fluids like your normal saline solution. It should have a good matrix for more and better bone. So dapat hindi siya madaling mapunit. It should have optimal vascularity. It means that your blood supply should also grow on top of it. And of course, there should be less dehiscences and of course, very good clinical evidence. Okay, so that's your membrane. Now, this is how your membrane looks like. No, there are two layers. Now, there are two sides of the membrane, which is your dense occlusive side. Your dense occlusive side is where your gingiva, no, is where your gingiva forms. Ganyan yung G. Yan. Jello, but G. Ibig sabihin, gingiva. So, on the bottom part is the porous part. No? Yan, porous part. Makikita niyo, porous part yan. It is where the bone graft is embedded. Yun yung nagtatakip sa bone graft. Yung occlusive side, no, is the one, the gums, no, going inside to the bone graft, while your porous side is the one where your bone graft is. So that's the structure of your membranes. Now, there are two kinds. No, there are two kinds of membrane. There's what you call the resorbable membrane, which is the type 1, and type 2 from the porcine and of course from the cow, bovine. There should be no chemical alterations and of course resorbable. Natutunaw din naman siya afterwards. No? So if you're going to compare on electron microscopy the structure of the human tissue, something like that, you also see here that there's actually, a similarity, not 100%, but a good similarity between the structures of your membrane and, of course, of your normal tissues. Well, there's also what you call your PTFE, your polytetrafluoroethylene, with titanium membrane, and of course, your Gore-Tex. Now, when you say PTFE or non-resorbable, it means that hindi siya matutunaw. Hindi siya katulad ng collagen na highly organic na natutunaw. Now, if you want to have very good bone grafting, so this is the membrane that you're going to use. So you would see here that there's a titanium plate there. This is the collagen membrane. This is your tax, parang tamtax siya, tinatak siya doon sa area. Then underneath is your bone graft. Okay? So what are the advantage of a resorbable and of course non-resorbable membrane? Resorbable is less rigid, easier to manipulate, dehiscence, free superficial contaminations, and no need for early removal. It means that you just leave it there kasi matutunaw siya. Okay? But in non-resorbable membrane, well, it's rigid. That's why it's very good. It's used for guided bone regeneration, especially if you want to increase the vertical height. It needs to be removed after some time. And of course, there would be dehiscence, there would be infection, and of course, early loss of teeth, early loss of the bone, sorry, and reduced vascularity because of the density of this membrane. Hindi siya ganun ka-porous. So, nangyari, reduced vascularity and the delay of graft vascularization. So, we remove this membrane, immediately pag nagkaroon na sure mga 4 to 6 weeks time, we remove the membrane and let it set and let the mucosa settle in. Let it settle in. So, magkakaroon siya ng vascularity towards that area. Okay? So this is one example of a socket preservation technique. So this is a dead tooth that is unrestorable. So what we did, we cut the tooth, we detached the bone. Okay, we extracted the tooth. We tried to clean the socket. We put in some bone graft. This is what we call a bone graft. We put in a membrane. We plug it there, then suture it. So you would see here that we have actually preserved, the horizontal dimension or the thickness of your area. Now, another thing, we have a multiple tooth extraction here. That's the picture that I showed you a while ago. Yan siya. We did not cut the interdental bone. We simply put some bone graft, put some membrane, suture it. Then after some time, we would see that a very good thickness of the bone graft there. Very good thickness. Yeah. And of course, we also maintain the very good height, no, of that area. Okay? Yan siya. And another thing, no, we tried to combine it with some bone grafting techniques, no. So we remove this root fragment here, and you can see here that there's a horizontal defect, no. Pansin nyo may concavity siya. So what we want to do is to put in a dental implant someday. So we tried to expose the socket, no, expose the bone, no, decorticate it, no, bubutasin mo siya, put some bone graft there on the socket, put some bone graft there on the width, of course, cover it with membrane, suture it, and after some time, you would see, after 6 to 8 months, you would see that there's a very good thickness of the bone. When we try to do in the dental implant, mapapansin nyo, ang kapal ng buto, no, coming from here, going there. So, ang kapal ng buto. So, that would make it very ideal for dental implants. Okay? So that's a combination of the techniques of the extraction socket and horizontal technique. Then another extraction socket and horizontal defect. So another root fragment here. You would see that there's, a concavity here. No, you could never put in a dental implant. So what we do, we open up the socket, we open up the area, extracted the tooth, no, measure how much. So basically, you would see here in the probe view that would be only be 4 millimeters. So makikita niyo yung concavity of the bone there. So that's why we decided, let's do some bone grafting. So we could decorticate it. Decorticate it, yan, para naglalaro ka lang. Put some bone graft on that area. Then after a few months, you would see coming from this one, naging sobrang kapal like this one. So basically, you have preserved the socket and of course introduce a very good thickness of the bone for your dental implants. So that's before, okay, and this is after. So you would see the difference there, okay. Now, sometimes we use adjuncts or what we call supplements to enhance bone healing. Now, enhance, now remember enhance, which means enhance, mapapabilis or mag-accelerate siya. So what we do, we get platelet-rich fibrin. This fibrin came from the patient's blood, no? We are extracting the patient's blood, no? We put it on a centrifuge, yung parang ginagamit from the medical laboratories, na umiikot, no? Where you get the blood, no? Process the blood. We try to separate it, the fibrin on which the healing properties of the blood is present, mix it with the bone graft, then we have what we call a sticky bone. Now, what are the factors affecting the success, no, of your bone grafting techniques and, of course, your socket preservation techniques? Number one, patient medical history. So if your patient is diabetic, would have thyroid problems, and of course with asthma, as I've said, they would affect the the formation of your protein. Thus, it would cause, no, nitrogen imbalance in the body. So basically, when you have nitrogen imbalance, you would have we don't have good bone. So basically, that's the three, no. And of course, it doesn't mean naman pag meron kang tatlo na yan, it doesn't mean na hindi pwede. So it means that you have to control the disease. Control the disease means dapat control the glucose profile, control the asthma, and of course, control the thyroid problem. So basically, that's it. And of course, good surgical asepsis means that you need to have a very clean environment, sterile environment during the surgery. And you have to have good reliability of the bone graft and the collagen membrane. Ibig sabihin, maganda yung brand, maganda yung effect niya. The studies are good within the product, so you need to have good. And of course, good surgical technique. Pangit naman na maganda yung materials mo tapos hindi ka naman marunong. And of course, proper wound closure. Kasi everything relies on wound closure, which is suturing. Kailangan magaling ka mag-suture. And sometimes, no, you need to develop more techniques, no, for you to be able to close up the area. Kasi kailangan protected yung membrane mo, no? Kung protected yung membrane mo, something like this one, protected yung main membrane, this is your bone graft, no? So you need to protect the membrane because not all membranes are actually, can prevent uh, uh, prevent the saliva, no, from uh, from disturbing it or from resorbing it. So basically, you need to have a very good closure of your epithelium. Okay. Then this is what you see, no? What we call the submucous space dissections. What we want to do is we want to lengthen. We want to lengthen the mucosa, no, towards where has to lessen the tension. Kasi in suturing and flap management, kailangan walang tension yung flap mo. Kasi kung may tension yung flap, nagkakaroon ka ng lymphatic blockade and vascular blockage. So that would have more edema. More edema means more swelling. Pag more swelling, you're more prone for infection and of course, failures in your bone grafting. So that's why you have to lessen it. Okay. So that's why these are the choices of sutures that you could actually use right now, which is your monofilament resorbable and of course your non-resorbable. So if you're going to do bone grafting, we need to rely on these types of sutures, no? Your monofilament resorbable and monofilament non-resorbable. Hindi na tayo gumagamit ng mga multifilament na resorbable. So we use sutures which has a longer staying time and strength time. So basically, this glycolide caprolactone, no? Uh, sorry, your glycolide caprolactone would actually last for 90 to 110 days, and it would have a 50%, no, of strength by 10 days. Yeah, while your polydioxanone, which is 180 to 210 days, the 50% strength would be on 38 days. So you need something like this, no? You need something like this to make sure that your flaps are stable. Okay. So in conclusion, over the past decades, it has become evident that post-extraction dimensional alteration inevitably occur due to the resorption of the bundle as a tooth-dependent structure. Now, even though numerous bone and soft tissue augmentation techniques have been suggested for regenerating the lost tissue structures, establishing clear guidelines for facilitating implant placement and achieving predictable treatment outcomes remains a significant challenge in clinical practice. Okay, so last words. No? Several surgical techniques have the potential to modulate the degree of these inevitable changes, such as a traumatic tooth extraction, bridge preservation, and of course, immediate implant placement. The management of this patient requires a basic to advanced approach to weigh the risk-benefit profile and develop evidence-based practice algorithm will regenerative strategies has a part. So with that, thank you and good morning. Okay. Okay, so questions for the lecture for today. Any questions? Okay, so Mr. Dablo, Mr. Giritan, can we take a picture right now for your attendance? So E1 first. Okay, can you tell me if you're taking the shot?
Done na, Doc.
Okay, thank you. Next, E2. Done? Done? Parang walang kumukuha ng picture. Ayun, done. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Giritan. So, everyone, since you don't have any questions, so
give me the chance to prepare for my lecture for Viscon. Some of your schoolmates are here. Um, take the day off. No? So take the day off. So study well, and of course, I'll see you again next Thursday. Okay. So goodbye, everyone. God bless.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doc.
Happy Valentine's, Doc.
Thank you, Doc.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Doc.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you.
Love you, Doc.